couldn't get through this morning. She had to go around. So she was coming from the falls.
I don't know right now, but I can look it up.
Yeah, I know we just got a letter the other day, but I can't get into my emails. They've got to update something on my computer.
Okay, we have quorum, so we should be good to start. So I will call this meeting to order at 3:33 p.m. And I will start with the land acknowledgement. The city of Thorold is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattaway-Daronk and the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara region today. The city of Thorold stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands in which we live on. Okay, so can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda?
I'll move it.
Thank you. And can I have a seconder? Vikram? Thank you. And I'll call the question. All those in favor? You can just raise your hand, please, for those in favor. Thank you. And those opposed? Okay, that was carried. Can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the last minutes? Okay, Donna, and a seconder, please. Michael, thank you. And I'll call the question. All those in favor? Okay, and opposed? That was carried. So we'll move on to item, Councillor Rose.
Yeah, through you, Sydney. I just wanted to ask you, am I voting like in the past? I think we weren't voting before as a counselor. Am I voting now, or do I like participate in that, or the voting part of it now?
Yes, from my
right?
understanding, councillors are allowed to vote on councils
Okay.
now.
Thank you.
So we'll move on to section 7, which is selection of the chair and vice chair. Once the chair has been determined, they will chair the rest of the meeting. So I will now call for nominations for the chair, and I'll need a mover and seconder for each nomination.
Could you please explain who is qualified to fulfill those roles and what they do?
All right, we will actually go back to introductions, and we will start with introductions so everyone can get to know each other. So if you can just go around the room, say your name and why you were interested and why you wanted to join this committee. Councillor DeRose, if you would like to start.
Yeah, through you, Sydney. I lifelong Thorold resident. Always been concerned about the safety of everybody, including myself. I grew up on a busy Pine Street, and my sister still lives in our childhood home. And now I'm out in St. John's for the last 25, 30 years. But once again, it's a safety crisis. Steve's out there a lot. Sean's been out there, they'll tell you. But yeah, so just, trying to help the community be a little safer. Of all the committees, this is probably my favorite one. And we got some good people on it, and Paul's wonderful too. And so just to try to make a difference to get people to slow down. We're getting bigger too fast, in my opinion. And now we've got more crime, more drug dealing, more speeding. So it's kind of frustrating to watch the change of the nice small town feel we had. But anyway, and that's my story. I've been teaching for about 30 years, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Donna, would you like to go next?
Hello, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to be here. I'm here, or I wanted to be here, because I believe that road safety is an important issue that affects everybody, whether they drive or not. And there are quite a few areas, being a longtime resident of Thorold, that I know of, that there is something that can be done to make things safer. So I'm here to try to bring it to the attention of people that can do that.
Thank you. Michael, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. Michael Milburn, almost permanent lifelong resident. I was lucky enough to be on the road safety committee last year. I feel the road safety is very important, whether you're walking, cycling, or driving. As Councillor DeRose did point on, the city is growing at a rapid pace, and it is something that is very important to everyone in Thorold. Thank you.
Thank you. Vikram. Sorry, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. Hi, I'm Vikram Prabhakar. I am a recent president of Thorold, and believe me, I'm loving it to the core. Um, I always used to love small towns and the safeties around the small towns. I'm basically a maxillofacial surgeon, though I'm not practicing in Canada right now. Today, I'm in Abu Dhabi. I work in Abu Dhabi as a consultant here for maxillofacial surgery. And most of my working career, I've been seeing and I've been managing roadside accident traumas, hit and run injuries. So I really know the importance of the safety on the roadside. So I thought it was a good idea for me to just chip in and let people know as a professional how bad road traffic accidents could be if not followed properly. So yeah, I think I could help with my expertise to let people know how vital it is to have road safety around, especially in smaller towns. People really don't care about road safety at all. This is what I've seen. And thank you for having me on this group.
Thank you. Garth, would you like to go next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Garth Gifford. I am the operations manager for GFL Environmental. We actually service the city of Thorold for waste recycling and organics. I've lived in the city myself going on 19 years, raising 2 smaller children, so road safety is very important to me.
Thank you. Matt. Sorry, we can't hear you.
Hey everyone, Dale last year. It was interesting to see this side of. Oh, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah, sorry. I'm fairly new to this. I lived here about 4 years, but I'm also part-time with the fire department, so I get to see a lot of the bad things that can happen on our roads. So it's interesting to see what happens or how that can be dealt with on the council side of things. So that's my story.
Thank you. Manisa. Okay, we can come back to you. Sean, would you like to explain your role at the city and your position here?
My name is Sean Dunsmore, and I'm the manager of engineering at the city of Thorold. A lot of the processes that are talked about here are run through me in terms of getting to council and trying to make sure that the roads are as safe as possible.
Thank you. Steve, would you like to explain yours?
My name's Steve. I'm a manager of public works, and I'll take care of all the deficiencies and maintenance involved in the roads, signage, street lighting.
Thank you. Manisa, would you like to do an introduction?
Oh, yes, thank you. So I don't know why I was not able to speak earlier. So I am a mother of 4, moved to Thorold about 3 years ago. I understand road safety as it is important for parents. So I believe that I can play a vital role in the committee.
Thank you. And Officer Webb, would you like to make an introduction?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Paul Webb. I'm a staff sergeant with the Niagara Regional Police. I'm in charge of Traffic and Road Safety Division. So I was part of the committee last year and enjoyed the role with that. So here I am again.
Thank you. And my name is Sydney. I work for the Clerk's Department as their legislative assistant. So I will be attending all meetings and taking minutes at them. I will also be doing agenda management and sending out the agendas prior to the meetings. Matthew, would you like to do your introduction?
Thank you, Sydney. Hi, everybody. My name is Matthew Trenum. I'm the city clerk here at the city of Thorold. Just popping into these first committee meetings to see everything get going and to provide some assistance to Sydney where needed. Just as we move on to sort of the next piece, I know Donna just sort of had a question about chair and vice chair, so I thought I would just sort of give you an update about the roles. Certainly anyone who is an actual member of the committee is eligible to be chair or vice chair. The chair really is responsible for presiding over the meetings. They're responsible for the overall administration and affairs of the committee. They work with the staff liaison to build and coordinate any work that the committee is going to be putting forward, as well as helping lead the committee through creating its work plan over the next 3 to 4 years. They're sort of a spokesperson for the committee, as well as providing any annual reports through to council on sort of the work of that committee is happening where that's required. It's not required in all situations. The vice chair is, of course, there to act as the presiding officer in absence of the chair and to work with them on any of these duties. So they're there as an assistant and able to sort of take over should the chair not be able to act for a particular meeting, or an example where the chair might have a conflict of interest, the vice chair could step up to take over for that portion of the agenda. So I hope that clears things up, makes it a little bit easier for anybody. Again, any member of the committee is eligible to act as chair or vice chair with regards to sort of how things work in building those agendas. As items come forward from staff or from the committee, Sydney will be responsible for putting those agendas together in draft format and will run them by the committee chair, let them have an opportunity to see it. She then publishes it to the public and makes it available to all of the committee members. And then we sort of assist through the administration of that piece. And then, of course, the chair runs the meeting itself. So if there are any questions, we're certainly happy to answer them and talk you through. But I'll hand it back over to Sydney to lead us through the appointment of chair and vice chair if you are ready to do so.
Perfect. Thank you, Matthew. So I will now call for nominations for chair. I will need a mover and seconder for each.
So is this where someone like nominates somebody?
Yes.
Okay, I'll move for to nominate Donna as the chair.
Okay, is there any seconders, or can I have a second?
I have to decline that nomination with apologies. I'm self-employed and I just don't have that kind of time that would be needed. But thank you, Michael. I appreciate your vote of confidence.
No problem.
Are there any other nominations for chair?
I would like to nominate Michael.
Okay, and is there a seconder? Awesome, Matt. Would you accept your nomination, Michael?
I will accept the nomination. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Perfect. Okay, so I'll call a second and a third time for nominations for the chair. Okay, so can I get a mover and a seconder to close the nominations for committee chair? Councillor DeRose and seconded by Vikram. Okay, and all those in favor? Thank you. All those opposed? And that was carried. So there being only one nominee, please join me in congratulating committee chair Michael. Congratulations.
Thanks.
So we will now be moving on to vice chair. So I will call for nominations for vice chair.
I
Donna?
would like to nominate Maniza.
Okay, is there a seconder? Michael? Maniza, do you accept your nomination?
Sorry, what was the nomination for? I was just on the phone.
That's okay. Do you accept your nomination to be vice chair?
So what are the requirements for that? Do I have to attend every single meeting? How would that work?
Matthew?
Thanks, Sydney. So the vice chair, again, doesn't have to attend every meeting, really is there to act should the presiding officer or chair be unable to do so. So if, for example,
Okay,
Michael.
that sounds good.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Yeah, I will accept that.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? I will call a second and third time for nominations for vice chair. Okay. Can I get a mover and seconder to close the nominations for vice chair? Councillor DeRose and seconded by Donna. All those in favor? Perfect. Those opposed? Thank you. So that passed. So the chair will chair the remainder of the meeting. So Michael, I will send you an email that has the script for the remainder of the agenda that you can go through. So just one
Okay.
moment, please. Sean, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just have a quick question about Garth and Manisa. How are they voting? You see something that I can't?
So they don't. I believe if they would like to vote either way, they could put it in the chat to me. Matthew, if you would like to answer that one.
Yeah, good question. As long as we see a majority has voted in favor of something, we accept that as, it's passed and nobody has put it up. Certainly they could raise their hand using the icons themselves, using the reactions icon. For I believe it's Garth who's on the phone. Garth, at any time during a vote, feel free to speak up and say, I vote in favor or I'm opposed. Again, if we don't hear anything if we don't see that a quorum of individuals or majority has actually passed it, we'll ask people to physically vote.
Councilor Rose.
Yeah, through you, Sydney. Councilor D'Angelo just reached out to me. He's been trying to get in, so I don't know if you or Matthew can help him get in. He hasn't been able to log in.
I'll forward him another link just now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Michael, did you receive the email?
Not yet.
Councilor Rose.
Yeah, through you, Sydney. I just had a quick question. I don't see anywhere on the agenda for a roundtable. Usually we had a chance to discuss roundtables, anything, just bring stuff up.
Yes,
Is that-
we do have roundtable as number 10 on the agenda.
Oh, you know what? Mine only printed off up to number 8. Thank you. Okay, it's all good.
Do you still not receive the email, Michael?
Not yet.
Okay, and is the email that has an 85 in it that you would like?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
can
I
try to resend
received
it.
all your emails up to this point.
Okay, no worries, I'll resend it. Hi, Councilor DeRose. Would you like to do an introduction as we figure this out? Or D'Angelo,
Councilor
sorry.
D'Angelo. Starts with a D.
Hello?
Nice. Sorry, we're just transitioning to the chair, so we're just sending over the script for remainder. I did send it again, Michael, if you would like to refresh your emails.
That's what I'm doing furiously over here.
I'm joining later. I just want to make sure. Can you hear me? Thank you.
Mr. Chair, perhaps just while you're waiting for that to come through, I believe the next item on the agenda is a work plan. So if you'd like, you can start going through a speakers list of just individuals who'd like to comment on it. What we'll do here in the clerk's office and with the staff staff liaisons that are in attendance, we'll keep track of sort of the comments that you make, the things that you'd like to start adding to that work plan. And what we'll do is for the next meeting of the committee, we'll bring back a draft work plan for the committee to look at and review in terms of how they'd like to sort of target this going forward, to then discuss and vote on for the next meeting. So you can feel free to lead discussion on that, and we'll see if we can get you that the script for the remainder.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. Could you just explain what the working groups is
So
supposed to be?
absolutely. So the work plan really is going to be a document that the committee creates to sort of target the work that it wants to do over the next 3 to 4 years throughout this term of council. What are some of the things that the committee is looking to achieve? Are there specific projects that they want to focus on? Recommendations that they want to look at, towards council? Certainly overall, it's a goal to have every committee have one of these, just to really focus some of the discussions. Overall, what are we trying to again achieve as a committee? It's easier for some than others, but some general principles, some general ideas. If there are specific projects that they're looking at, those are reasonable. So at least it gives staff an idea of these are some of the things that we're looking at addressing perhaps sometime this year or sometime next year, for them to be able to be prepared to speak to the committee when these issues come up in the future. So again, it can be pretty general, it can be high level. They could also be specific. We'll do our best to again capture the discussion in a meaningful way to bring back to council as sort of a draft work plan of, again, what is this committee looking to achieve?
Okay, and that needs to be done in the first meeting?
So it's just the initial discussion at this point. Nothing will be approved today. For the next meeting, we'll bring back that draft for everybody to review and comment on.
Okay. During the last road safety committee, I believe we did get a report from the engineering department that did say, with all the streets that are at risk, I believe, Sean, I think you sent that report to us last year.
Certainly, we supplied a report that talked about all the call it traffic calming processes that were open at that point in time. We could certainly repair or redo that report for you so that you can see it.
I would think that would be a good idea for the committee to kind of have an idea of what the city of Thorold already has information wise. That would be of essence to us to help us figure out where to go in some of these situations. One other inquiry I have is the process for residents of Thorold to submit an application or an incident report if something happens in the streets of Thorold. Is there a process currently for that to happen?
Through the chair, an incident meaning a close call, meaning getting hit by a car, or
Incident as in like a complaint, or someone says this intersection is unsafe, or someone just saying that this needs to be looked at. Okay.
In terms of looking at it for traffic calming and purposes, there's absolutely a process. It's on our website. I could help you with that description of where it is on our website if I had a few minutes to look it up myself. It involves a petition and trying to get most of the people who would be affected by this traffic calming on board, so that everybody was working in the same direction. As for a complaint, we can always take a complaint, and that has nothing to do with necessarily road safety. Complaints are filed through the clerk's department at the city, and appropriate action will be taken at that point.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Mr. D'Angelo?
Yeah, thanks. My apologies for being late. I have a work commitment and I just got out of that to come here. So I'm hoping that we can look at maybe scheduling this meeting a little later on, but that's another topic. But just in terms of traffic issues, there is the issue of the road safety from a city perspective, but then there's also the issue of enforcement of traffic safety from the NRPS. They do have a traffic hotline number. and also a website, or on their website, they also have a complaint process where you can do it online. I've been pushing that so that we get greater traffic enforcement. If we can detail some of the items that are happening in our community, and that's the general public that has to help us with this. If they can either call the traffic hotline, they have a new number, so I'll get that information put together. But that helps too from the enforcement component, and then Sean can deal with if it's more of not enforcement, but more of a physical problem that's being caused by whatever the issue is. So I think it's a two-pronged approach. One is to have better enforcement from the NRP, but we have to let them know what the problem is. And then also from a city standpoint, from a physical aspect, they need to know also, which is what Sean was describing. Hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. So I'm not getting this email. So where do I go next year?
Sorry about that. We've tried to send it a few times, so I'm not too sure why it isn't going through, but that's okay. We can kind of just guide you along as you chair the remainder of the meeting. So right now we're just looking for items on the work plan. So goals that we have for the next 4 years or 3 years, things people would like to see on the committee, anything along those lines. Now would be the time to share those. Staff will compile a report of those, well, a work plan that will be brought back at the next meeting that we can rediscuss again.
Okay. Sorry, Councillor DeRose, go ahead.
I think Donna had her hand up first. Donna, you can go and I'll go after you.
Yeah, go ahead, Donna.
Okay, thank you. Those that were here last year will remember that I've mentioned before this intersection on Ormond Street North and St. David's. I don't know if this is the time to bring that forward. This is something I would definitely like to address this year. One of the main motivators that I wanted to get on this committee, because that is a very dangerous intersection. I don't know if it's possible to pull up statistics for accidents specifically at that intersection, but I live right here. I can see that intersection from my kitchen window, and I can tell you there are a lot of accidents there. There's also a high school right there and a bus stop on the other side of the road. And in my opinion, what we need there is at least a 4-way stop, if not like a crosswalk light with the button, painted crosswalks. We need something. There's a stop sign now up at the Early Bird and at the other end up by the Tims, there's a stop light, but both directions down to that intersection are downhill. And by the time they get to there, those cars are moving very fast still. It slows them down, but they are still really motoring by the time they get to the bottom of the hill. I would like to see something done before somebody gets hurt. One of the high school kids crossing, there's, to get to the bus stop. It's a very busy area with pedestrians, young families. There's a lot of pedestrian traffic as well as car traffic. So I believe it needs to be addressed as soon as possible. So I don't know who would know how to find statistics to back up what I'm saying by observation. But like I've seen the police and the fire trucks out and the jaws of life being applied, and it's bad there. So I would like to have this addressed as soon as possible.
Okay, thanks, Donna. Either Sean or Steve, in respect to Donna's inquiry, is there anything that we can do or recommend to council to look at this specific intersection in question?
Certainly there is. A recommendation from this committee would certainly put us down that road. At the same time, the stats, I can get those stats for you relatively quickly. Probably before the next meeting. As for the design, that'll take a little bit more time, but certainly we could do that. And the best way to do that would be to make a recommendation from this committee to council to go ahead and make those changes.
Okay, thank you, Sean. I'm going to kind of, go ahead, Mr. D'Angelo.
Yeah, thank you. Sean, maybe if you can, like, I don't expect a full lengthy report, but maybe if you could highlight some of the options we have there, because it may take time before a stop sign goes there, but I know we've done this in the past from a city perspective. If it's a high collision area, there's signage that goes up. So maybe if you could detail some of the quicker remedies to help facilitate some action here. Maybe if you could put that list for the committee for the next meeting, so we could see what we could do very quickly and then see what needs to be done to go to council for a greater plan in place. So that might be helpful.
Certainly, we could put together a list. Yep, no problem.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mr. D'Angelo. Oh, Mr. Rhodes, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Chair. I brought this up in the Active Transportation Committee, and I think I brought it up in this committee. I can't remember, but, and I've talked to Sean and Steve about this, and I know it's a long process. I don't want to bury the city with extra costs, but I think as we go along, I'd like to somehow get a motion passed on council eventually that certain roads in Thorold be lowered, inner city roads, and be lowered to 40 from 50. And just my reasoning is they have statistics where if you get a hit at 80, you've got a very good chance of dying. 60, you might make it. 40, you've got a very good chance of surviving. Now, the flip side of that is not everybody's going to go 40 still. But if there is enforcement that they get caught, their fine's going to be higher, and it'll mess with their insurance. So hopefully punish them enough. And my second thing I'd like to see this term, and I've been a stickler for this since getting on council 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago, is to try to have more safety enforcement hours in Thorold. And I know Paul will tell us they're short-manned, they're stretched as far as they can. The region's getting growing, and but even if we had, I don't know, Paul, if you can comment on it. Even if we had one car in Thorold just rotating locations, I know it's a big part of your budget, so I don't even know if that's possible, but maybe in the next 4 years we can resolve, get closer to that goal of just having more visual enforcement. Because I think, to me, like where I live out in St. John's, I think that's the only answer out there. I was telling a story at council recently where we were coming home from Walmart on a Friday night, my wife and I and the 3 kids, and 2 cars were racing over the speed bump, which happens to be in front of my house, which I started that process before I became a counselor, just so you don't think, oh, they put a speed bump there because he's a counselor, but it's the only spot they can put it. But these 2 kit cars were racing side by side and almost hit us head on. We had to pull over almost on my property. It's like a steep hill in the bush. But anyway, so I was very frustrated. I ended up dropping off everybody, calling the police and trying to track them, which I did, but they drove by me around St. John's so fast that I couldn't even turn around and try to get their license plate. So that's what's happened. So my 2 things are lowering speed limits. And like I said, it might have 0 effect on the people that are speeding, but it'll make it more an impact on their fine, and just having possibility of more enforcement. And even if it's people that are off duty that want to do it, I don't know. But Paul, any plans you have or ideas, I'd appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Droz. Go ahead, Mr. Webb.
Yeah, just as a response to that, I mean, there are a number of different items involved in that, as you know. Yeah, my traffic officers were responsible for region-wide. So on any given day, at most, I have, on a good day, I have 4, maybe 5 officers working. Our traffic complaint list by the end of last year was sitting somewhere around 350 items on it for the region. So, I mean, I'm not minimizing anything as far as Thorold goes. We recognize that there are problem areas up there. We have officers that have identified a couple recently and done some work up there. For the Thorold part of it, I don't have a lot of say. I mean, I can put input back. There are 2 dedicated Thorold cars that work every shift in Thorold, but they're also responsible for calls of service while they're up there. So downtime, they would be available. Traffic enforcement could be assigned to each of them. As far as external officers working, that would fall into like a pay duty situation where there would be a hiring to hire them back if the city wanted something specific. Or something that we work projects. There's always things that are possible, but that would be authorizing overtime for that would have to be taken through higher ranks than myself to approve.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Webb. Mr. DeRose, I do share your enthusiasm for lowering the speed limits from 50 to 40 on any kind of residential street that's not a main road. I would like to ask eventually the city if we can take a look, because St. Catharines has already gone through this before. I'm sure most people here are aware. It is a significant cost, but I'm sure that the results will hopefully, be a lot better for people out there, and they'll probably feel safer walking on the roads when they know it's 40 instead of 50. I would like that to make one of our goals and agenda for this committee is to try to work towards what do we need to do to lower it from 50 to 40. What is the best areas to do so without, slowing down traffic going through Thorold, but on the side streets especially is something of an area that I would like to focus on. Mr. DeRose?
Yeah, thank you. Just one more thing. We've talked about photo radar and community safety zones. So I'm just wondering if Paul can maybe elaborate on that. We talked about certain school, like I know we had issues here in front of our school, and I'm here at Monsignor Clancy, called Our Lady of the Holy Rosary down Collier Road. So the crossing guard almost got hit by a speeding pickup truck last year, and it was ironically, we had a meeting and I was at school and there was an accident 5 doors down. So on Collier Road here, and then it continues to Richmond Street School. So just if Paul can give us an update, if we can expedite at least the labeling of these community safety zones, so that maybe we can get some photo radar. I know that's expensive, but I think it'll be well worth it. But any input from Paul would be appreciated, or anybody else that might have knowledge of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeRose.
I know Sean or Steve might have some information too. Thank you.
They may have more information than I do on them. The police has no say or input into that. I do meet once a month with our regional committee, and we just had a meeting a week before last, just sort of updates on where they are. Red light cameras and photo radar are coming. Yes, they will be primarily placed in regional community safety zones, and I stress the word regional because there are different community safety zones. Some are municipal. For instance, Niagara Falls Kaler Road has its community safety zone, but that's municipal, not a regional one. The only zone that I'm aware of that is being considered for the photo radar is on Lundy's Lane between Montrose and Kaler Road. There's some signage put up. The places that are in for signage is put in place, and you'll see that there's bags over them right now. The timing they're hoping will come in around April. Some of that is vendor commitment. As far as the designation of a community safety zone, that's something that would have to go through your region or your council to have those areas approved. And then, once they're approved and signage goes up, you're right, the fines are increased. And to be honest, I'm not sure what the process is to have those a different zone designated. That it usually ends up being around schools, but I'm not sure of the exact process.
Go ahead, Mr. Dandro, sorry.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Definitely, I think this committee should look at where to put those community safety zones. We have Richmond Street, and we have our Richmond Street School, Our Lady of the Holy Rosary. Just using those two examples, they're both on a regional road, regional road. So I think we need to identify where we want to put these, and then just send it to council so that they can do the process of getting it done. I know when I served as mayor, I was able to get the signage on both of those roads so that it slowed traffic down with the flashing lights. So there's steps there, but they're not community safety zones at this point in time. So the speed fines are not doubled, but that's something we could look at. from the standpoint of the committee. So maybe Sean, I don't know if that's something you can maybe bring back as part of, or we could discuss it as part of the work plan of just bringing back areas that are of high traffic in terms of, especially around schools, right? Where the speed limit has to be, and where there's pedestrian crosswalking is very, very important. So I agree with that. I think we need to do a bit of work and then recommend that to council so that it gives them the push to move forward on it.
Okay, thanks you, Mr. D'Angelo. I'd like to ask the other committee members if they have any suggestions for the working plans or things that we want to take a look at the future. I'll kind of open it up to see if you guys want to add your 2 cents. Go ahead, Donna. Thank you.
I'm also in favor of getting speed limits lowered in specific areas. And I think Front Street, downtown Front Street should be one of the first ones. Surprisingly, even though it's a short distance between stop signs, there are still people that speed on that road. And I use that road a lot, so I'm there and I can see. They also blow through those stop signs like they're not even there. Also, the part of Albert Street that intersects with Front Street, they closed off one side from parking. You're not allowed to park on that one side, only on the side with the restaurant, your Karma Chameleon. That side you can park on, but there are very often trucks and cars and stuff. They're pulled over. They're not technically parking, but they're still blocking the traffic. So you can barely squeeze through there. I think we need to maybe put up stronger signs or something there just to keep that flow going. It's pretty narrow already. And then you put a big truck there unloading stuff and it gets quite dangerous. I was almost involved in an accident there when a sports car came whipping around the corner from Front Street without even slowing down, and he was speeding. I don't know how he managed the corner, but there was a big truck there. I was trying to get around it, and luckily I was able to stop in time, but it could have been very bad. So we need to make sure where it says no parking, not to let anybody stop there.
Thank you, Donna. Mr. D'Angelo.
Just want to let the committee members know we're going through the budget process at council. And right now there's a recommendation from staff to hire 2 parking enforcement officers. So if they are there, then individuals that are parked illegally or in incorrect spots, I know exactly the intersection you're talking about. It's a very dangerous intersection. It's poorly designed because it has those little islands jutting out, forcing cars and trucks moving. So we may have to look at a redesign of that intersection because that's part of the problem that's causing it. I want again, I sit on council, so I'd like to hear more comments from the other members, but I do have an item I want to add to the work plan. So at some point in time, Mr. Chair, if you could just refer back to me, but I'd like to hear other discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. D'Angelo. Again, open it up. If anyone want to put anything on the agenda for the work plan, please go ahead. Mr. Duros.
Through Mr. Chair, I just wanted to ask Sean, I know that the mayor had mentioned to me when I brought this up to him last year after one of our meetings, he said the region was in the process of making from Richmond Street School to Our Lady of the Holy Rosary on Collier a community safety zone. I know they were in the process of it. And I just want to ask Sean Dunsmore if he has any insight into this or information. Thank you.
I believe they were looking at it. I don't know where that stands at this point in time. I haven't seen anything that pushed it to the community safety zone. It's still got the reduced speed limit, but no community safety zone.
Sean, is there anyone we can contact at the region to see what the status is? I don't even mind contact, but I know Carrie Moore Cloud if you did.
Yeah, certainly we will contact them and find out what the status is for you.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Mr. Duros. Any last takers? Donna, go ahead.
Thank you. There is one other item that's kind of different from the others, and that is one of the things I learned last time the committee was meeting is that one of our mandates is education. And I think in a lot of cases, educating the public about what the traffic laws are could be a really big help for our general populace to have improved driving skills. So a lot of people, for example, they don't seem to understand how merge works. They expect if there's a car there, they expect it's going to move over whether you want to or not. And that's not how merge is supposed to work. There are many, many instances. I'm sure anybody who's out there driving knows as many as I do. But I believe that in many cases, it's just that the traffic laws are not known. So if we can educate people, I think that would be half the battle. Now, I did notice that the Thorold City has some kind of newsletter thing. It's not the village report thing that comes, but it's specific to Thorold. And I believe it comes from the city. It's maybe, Sydney. You might know more about that. This would be a perfect forum to just like every time, I don't know how often it comes out, but to just, here's a driving tip for this week or month or whatever it is. Don't follow too closely. Don't, just common sense driving tips for those of us who have been driving for a long time and know better. So just to bring these things to the attention of people, to bring them fresh to their mind. Maybe it's been a long time since they tested. I think that would be really, really helpful. And that is part of what we're here for.
Thank you, Donna. And yes, there is a monthly bulletin that gets sent out by the city of Thorold. I agree that the education is important. And I know there's like the City of Thorold Facebook page, Twitter, and the bulletin. And maybe we can make a point of having some road safety instructions or tips and tricks in the monthly newsletter. That would be a really good idea. Thank you for that, Donna. Mr. Droz, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Chair. I'll try not to talk anymore much after this, but just to let you know, on active transportation, we had something going where they would actually put stuff on the social media with a safety tip, and we did that. I think it fell by the wayside as the committee disbanded, and before the election. And there was one other thing I was going to say. Tip safety. It's not coming to me right now. They were wonderful in that they did the bike safety program, and they had money in the budget. And so they went to all the grade 6s in Thorold, all the schools, and offered them this program. And I believe it was for free, and kids learn bike safety. So that's another thing. Well, I know that committee will be starting up soon, and I will push for that again. So it kind of crosses over with this committee in that respect. So it teaches all the kids there how to operate bikes safely, and it's really good. And but they did do something like that. But that's a great idea to maybe put it on the city website. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Droz. Yeah, I remember when I was a kid at Richmond School, they had the police come in and teach you the proper bike safety and the hand signals and everything. And I took that and learned from it. Mr. Matthew, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just hearing some of those comments at, if not the next meeting, one after that, perhaps we can invite the community relations specialist at the city who's responsible for social media to come and just sort of speak to what that could look like in terms of, some form of regular calendar of tips and tricks that would come through our own social media pieces. If there's something regular the committee is looking to do, we can certainly bring her into that conversation.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. That is a wonderful idea. Yeah, if not next meeting, the meeting after, I would like to have the community relationship manager on here and get her input on what we can do to spread the word. Thank you for that. Mr. D'Angelo, you said you want me to come back to you. Go ahead.
Just on that point regarding communications, I know Councillor DeRose and myself will work with the city staff on that, because like I said, I brought forward some information regarding traffic monitoring by the NRP, and it was supposed to be on the website, and then there should be an article in the newsletter too. So I think that'll be the onus will be on Councillor DeRose and myself to make sure that's happening more regularly. So I'll attest that we'll make sure that happens, so stuff gets done. The one thing, and I agree 100% with the comment about education. I think that's the best route that we can go. Enforcement's not going to do everything because of, as Paul mentioned, there's limited resources for enforcement, and you could be at one corner and you could go there every week, but it could be on a Monday when it's happening, and then you go there Monday, and then it's going to happen on a Tuesday. So if we could educate people into better driving habits, that goes a lot further. So one of the things in terms of education is getting people to understand what they're actually doing on the road. And I see this in other communities. So I'm going to ask through you, Mr. Chair, a question to Mr. Dunsmore to see if he could help us out here. Do we have any of those signage that are electronic, that are portable, that we can put on a pole that shows people how fast they are driving, so they understand they're doing 80 in a 50 zone? Do we have anything like that?
We do, or let me be clear on that. We did. I haven't looked for them in a while. I think we had two sets of two signs, one for each direction, and they were deployed at one point in time. We were having a bit of a problem with those signage in that people would come along and steal them, believe it or not. And so I'm not sure exactly where we're at. Steve might actually know better than I do. But yes, we do have those, and we can certainly deploy those in locations as requested.
So I'm in the process of purchasing 2 portable ones so that we can place them out as soon as they, I receive them. We can put them in strategic areas and move them from place to place. As far as the permanent ones, I'm not sure if we have any left. Like Sean said, the 2 sets we had were stolen, and I can check the inventory, but I do have 2 that I will be purchasing that will be on portable trailers that we can move to certain areas. I know the region did that just a while ago on beaver dams. They put some flashing lights with speed limits, identifying the speed, and it seemed to work for a while. But these ones will be portable that we can move around from place to place.
Yeah, if I could further comment to Mr. Chair, that's great news that if we have them or they're being purchased. So are they included in the budget, Steve, or is that something, because we're going through budget process? So I was going to add these to the budget if we don't have any. I think we need a couple sets, and I think this committee could work towards identifying where we could rotate them around, so that we're getting maximum education throughout the community of Thorold, the rural areas, urban areas, school areas, all those, because I know when I see those signs, it brings awareness to how fast you are going, which is really good. Now, I don't have all the technical knowledge on those, but when you're talking portable ones, so you're talking like a little trailer where you have it on, or I've seen them on poles that they're portable, so they're mounted. Like I guess anything could be stolen, but if it's like 10 feet off the ground on a pole, those ones are still being stolen. Is that the type that have disappeared?
Yeah.
on the? Okay, and there's no way of tracking that or bolting it down and making sure it doesn't disappear?
Well, they are bolted, and they just cut the poles right down and take everything.
Wow.
Apple AirTags.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll as long as, so you have, my concern from a council standpoint is you have money in the budget to do this so that it will happen, that we'll purchase a couple of these?
Yeah, it's in the budget.
Okay. When you say 2, does it mean one going back and forth in the same area, like a set of them, or 2 sets where you can put them on 2 different roads?
I have a certain amount of money in the budget, and I'm pretty sure it'll cover just 2, but like I said, I might have two still. Like, we made our move from the operations to the arena. Let me check and see if I have a couple in stock still from the previous ones. I might have 2 more. They just might not be functioning, but I could get them functional again. But I'm definitely have enough in budget for like just 2 sets of lights, not like for one location, 1 in each direction. I might have enough money for 2 sets. I'm not sure, but I did budget for just 1 set at this time, the portable one to move around.
Okay, so what, if you can get, through you, Mr. Chair, sorry, if you could get back to me and Councillor DeRose by the next budget meeting, I have no issue putting in for another set. If we, I'd like to have two sets working, because if something happens to one, at least you got one rotating while the other one's getting fixed. So if you need more money in the budget, my hand will go up definitely to put that in there. And I know Carmen DeRose will support it, or Councillor DeRose. So let us know by the next budget meeting, which is next Wednesday, if you have two operational sets. And if not, look at us, and we'll put it on the floor and get council to hopefully support it. So we can do the educational portion of our job here.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, thank you, Mr. D'Angelo. So just one more for me on the working groups. As a avid cyclist in Thorold, safety is top priority, especially when you're riding around the city of Thorold. And I'd like us to at least take a look at that and how we can make it safer as well. One of the other items with that is I do see a lot of cyclists using our wonderful trails, especially around the canal path. And I do see them stopping off on Front Street to, grab a pastry or whatever. And this is something I raised in the Active Transportation Committee, but I would like to see the bike racks that were taken off when Front Street was redeveloped to be put back, because we have a wonderful downtown. And if we have the bike racks in front of most of the stores, we'll see a lot more foot traffic there, and people will be more able to ride downtown and park and not have to worry about their bike being stolen. Mr. Dunsmore, go ahead.
There are bike racks on Front Street.
There's
the new construction included 12 bike racks on Front Street.
Yeah, I do see them when I'm walking out there, but there's not in front of the places I see, because all the people are just putting their bikes in front of the stores.
Okay.
Yeah.
We looked at the ones that were removed, and they need a little work to be put back in. They're all rusting, and the paint is chipping off of them. But I believe we have 12 of them in storage that we could certainly go down that road of repairing them and replacing them.
Okay, thank you for that. Sydney, what's next on the agenda here?
Mr. Chair, the next question is any discussion respecting the date and time of meetings for the remainder of the term.
Okay, thank you. I know Mr. D'Angelo had a comment about 3:30 being a little bit too early. Does anyone else have any opinions on the time of this meeting? Go ahead. Is 3:30 okay for everybody? Or do we need to change it? If 3:30 is okay, just put your hand up. Otherwise, we'll discuss more.
Well, Mr. Chair, I was asking if it could start at 4 o'clock. Does that cause an inconvenience? I work till 4, but it's easier to get off a few minutes than a whole half hour. But if it can't, then I would have to just join later as part of the meeting. I'm just not sure. It's when you have another job and commitments, it's sometimes hard to just get out of them.
Right.
Thanks for listening.
Fine for me too.
Yeah, I'm also okay with 4 o'clock. I'm not sure if everybody else is people okay with pushing it back 30 minutes, or would that be a problem?
30 minutes is fine.
Me?
Can we do like a vote, 3:34, or I don't know how you do that, but is everybody okay with 4 o'clock then?
Yes, if you guys okay with 4 o'clock, just put your hand up. See what we got here. Okay, that seems like majority to me. Thanks, Sydney. Go ahead.
Sorry, just to input, we would need to get a mover and a seconder to bring the report on the floor, and then it can be amended to be at 4 p.m. going forward.
Okay, do we have a mover?
No.
Mr. DeRose?
I just had a quick question.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I don't have a problem with 4. The only thing is I want to ask city staff if that kind of messes them up, because I know sometimes you guys only work till a certain time. So I don't know if that throws a wrinkle in your schedule.
We're
Go ahead,
good.
Sydney.
Through you, Mr. Speaker, 4 PM still works for me.
Okay, can I get a mover for changing the time from 3:30 to 4 PM? Mr. D'Angelo, and then seconder, Mr. Droz. Okay, thank you. What was next on the agenda, Sydney?
Mr. Speaker, the next is the roundtable discussion.
Okay, great. So yeah, if anybody has any comments or concerns or just general input, please go ahead, Mr. Droz.
Yeah, through you, Chair. I just wanted to share a story. Earlier in the fall, I was called by a resident on Beaver Dams Road, near right across from the operations center, and he was noticing extreme speeding on that part of the, right near our operations driveway. And so we had a meeting with the region and Niagara Regional Police. And it was ironic that during the meeting, the police officer had to go give tickets while he had to jump back in his car because he saw people speeding. And it was interesting, to say the least. And just recently, around Christmas time, a good lifelong friend of mine, I heard about the accident and I didn't know it was a good friend of mine, a lifelong Thorold resident, Ron DeFelice. He got hit head on at the bend in front of where 406 Auto Parts used to be. And he broke his sternum. The other guy, I think he's still in the hospital. He had to get airlifted, and it was speeding. The guy crossed the line and hit Ronnie head on. So but the region had said they were going to do all these things. And there's been more police presence, Paul. I'll tell you, I have seen the police out there quite a bit because that's the way I get into school. And but I'm surprised the region was going to put those. Paul, I don't know what those things are. Sean, you might know. In the middle, they're like separation of the road. They're like, but if you hit them, they don't damage your car. You know what I'm talking about?
Well, there's the rumble strips like they have out on DeQ Road as you head down the hill from into Jackson Flats.
Yeah,
but then there's more reflective ones like they have out on the 403 by Hamilton there.
Well, these ones are actually stuck stand on the ground, and if the car hits them, they just bounce back up after you, and they don't damage your car. I wish I could remember what they're called, but yeah, the rumble strips is a great
Bollards.
idea. What's that?
Bollards.
Plastic delineators, I think, is what you're talking
Right. So that they talked about it, in the fall, and then the only thing that was done was the regional police kept their end of it, and put more enforcement out there. They're out there quite frequently. But I know the region did not follow up with what they were supposed to do. So I just wanted to make that comment. And but thankfully Ronnie's healing and he's at home, so that's a good sign.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Droz. Matt, you raised your hand.
Yeah, I just had a inquiry from a resident in the neighborhood wondering if the construction of sidewalks falls under this committee or not. That's it. I just didn't have anywhere to direct them.
I'm having a hard time hearing him. What did he say?
He mentioned the construction of sidewalks, if this is under the road safety purview, or who to direct insights about that process.
I'm the one to direct those comments to about construction of sidewalks. We have a city policy related to sidewalks. I'd certainly be willing to talk to you about that. I don't know if that's something that this road safety committee wants to talk about.
I would ask Matt. Oh, sorry, Matt.
Sorry, yeah, it was just more of a resident asking me if I could direct them in the right direction. So it's not necessarily this committee, but sure.
Yeah, I certainly I'm the one to direct that to, and my email address is sean.dunsmore@thorold.ca, or if they want a phone, it's 905-227-3535.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dunsmore. Again, open roundtable. Anybody else? Donna, please go ahead.
Thank you. Officer Webb, last season, or whatever you call it, we did discuss for a time the issue of people on mobility devices and all the other really great variety of ways people get around now, and scooters and motorized scooters and like all of these things. And when we talked about it, you mentioned that there are no guidelines even or legislation, or there's no laws or anything about the rules that govern where people on those devices are supposed to be, if they're supposed to be in the bike lane or in the street or on the sidewalk. Or I was wondering if there has been any advancement in legislating any kind of traffic laws about those things.
Well, you covered a fairly wide gamut of things, but as far as mobility devices under the Highway Traffic Act are considered pedestrians. So unless there's a bylaw that prohibits them, they can operate, which Thorold doesn't have, because I actually just had somebody contact me asking whether or not they could go from Thorold South into Thorold through the Thorold Tunnel using the sidewalk. So I called Thorold to find out if they had a bylaw prohibiting mobility devices, scooters, from being on sidewalks, and one doesn't exist. So given that, they are considered a pedestrian, so they are required to follow the same rules of the road, I guess, for lack of a better word, that any pedestrian would. If they're going to, they can walk on sidewalks. If they're going to be on their roadway, they should be off to the right. They should be, far most right side of it. For as far as e-bikes, and e-bikes are governed as far as speed and thing, they have to follow the rules of the road like a bicycle would. Where there isn't any is for all these new devices that are coming in, such as the stand-up scooters, electric scooters that you're seeing, rollerblades with electric power to them now. There's skateboards with electric power to them. There's a multitude of them, and basically they all follow underneath the Highway Traffic Act. It basically says if your region, they're prohibited on a roadway unless there is a regional bylaw that says that they can operate, and we don't have such a thing anywhere in the Niagara region. So I don't know if that answers your question, but there's also the enforcement on those devices is really, all you do is give them a ticket that sends them to court that says you're doing something that you're not allowed to do. It's called a Part 3, so they have to go to court in order to have a fine legislated to them. But there's no requirement for insurance or anything along those lines. That's something that there was discussion, particularly with the stand-up scooters pre-COVID. I know the region was looking at opening them up for areas of like the Welland Canal Parkway and things like that. There's a company that wants them around Brock University. They're very popular at universities out of town, and so the businesses want to come in because they're the moneymaker for them. But there is no legislation that clearly covers any of it at this point. As far as for the sidewalks, I would defer that back to the city council to say if you don't want, they feel that they don't want the mobility devices on the sidewalks, and that would be a bylaw to prohibit it. But from our standpoint for traffic enforcement, I think there's a greater risk of having them on the roadways in a lot of cases than there is on the sidewalks, especially in narrow streets and trying to navigate around parked cars and such that could be putting them in harm's way. But that's my personal opinion. That's not a legal one.
That was what I had observed and why I was concerned about that. There had been a fatality, I believe, in Welland not long before we discussed that. And there, what I see is people in mobility devices, but they're sometimes in the bike lane, they're sometimes in the street, and sometimes on the sidewalk. And here is another place where education maybe is all that's needed. I believe that if people who use these devices knew where the safest places were to be, that's where they would be. Where they're supposed to be, that's where I believe where most people would want to be. So I believe most people are rule followers, not breakers. So if they understand what the rules are concerning their device, that might help to keep them safely on the sidewalks. So here's another place where we can look at some educating to do for our town and maybe a broader area.
Okay, thank you, Donna. That's a very good point. Anybody else have anything to, oh, Mr. D'Angelo, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This one's through you to Sean. Has there any reports gone to council regarding traffic calming measures? Just so that we have understanding what traffic calming measures are out there and how they can apply. I just thought if there was something that was done in the past that could be useful to this committee, if you could forward that information to us.
Yeah, that's a tough one, man. Yes, there's been lots of traffic calming measures that have been put in place in different locations around the city. You've seen some of them at Confederation with the speed humps, and on Silver Maple with those speed humps. Pulling all those reports out, okay, we can certainly do that. It's over the last 10 years, there's been quite a bit of it. As for the policy, that policy is actually on our website to help people identify what it is. And like we said earlier, we have a few things still in process that we will come back and let you know about how it's processing or being progressed. Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'm not looking for all the reports. I just thought if there was something, the one that encompassed a bit of different types of measures, speed humps, cones, narrowing, like if it was something all together, if it's all in different reports. No, I'm not looking to get 50 reports brought forward, but I thought if something was there that we can sort of look at. And so when we're looking at identifying an area and putting a traffic calming measure, what are our options? That's what I'm sort of looking at, more so than what has been done all over the place. That's the type of info I was looking for. But if it's not available, then no problem.
Yeah, through the chair, yes, we would be happy to have those conversations. We haven't done anything specifically. I will suggest that other municipalities have, and we may be able to just steal some of their information. I want to caution people that usually what happens in the process is we have a pretty good library of traffic calming measures that we try to implement, and we try to really fit the solution to the problem. So we do try, in the process, we come up with a solution. So I don't know that suggesting the solution is the right approach as much as identifying the problem and then commenting on the solutions that happen.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dunsmore. Anybody else have anything to contribute to the roundtable before we move on? Once, twice. Okay, Sydney, what's next?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item is just when the next meeting is. So the next meeting would be scheduled for May 2nd at 4 p.m. And then if there's no more comments, you would just have to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks, Sydney. Yeah, so that's everything. I'd like to move forward with adjourning the meeting. We have a mover. Okay, and then a seconder.
Sorry, I'm just
Yep, go ahead.
we actually don't need a mover and a seconder anymore to
Okay.
adjourn meetings. You can just state the time and that the meeting has been adjourned.
Okay, it is February 1st, 2023 at 4:47, and this meeting has been adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your time today. We appreciate it.